malaki yung place ng Philippines sa offshore outsourcing. Of course, if you go into the mainstream things like call centers or mainstream programming languages, ang laki na ng competition. But there's a lot of opportunities in niche programming languages like Ruby, Python, and Scala, and as well as user experience. I was surprised that there's this freelance guy. He's able to charge $40 an hour for just web design. Sige. And then depends on your expertise. You could probably imagine offering your own expertise offshore, and it's actually not so hard to go offshore, even if you're here. Next, please. Another opportunity is there's a lot of talent in the countryside. So if you locate, some of you might have families in the province. If you locate near a good school in an area where the schools are good but the jobs aren't as plentiful, there's a lot of good talent that you can recruit from there. There's a lot of successful companies that locate in these places. A good way to start out is just using the online contracting services like Odesk, Elance, and vWorker. So I know a lot of people making a lot of good money in this just through here. Next, please. Some challenges though is the scaling up gets a little costly. So this is revenue. Scaling up can get costly in outsourcing. When you're just a small bunch and everybody's doing the work, it's not so costly. But when you want to scale up, your costs start to exceed your revenues. And it's only when you get beyond a certain scale that's when your revenues again exceed. So that's because you need to invest in formal office space, professional management. You can't recruit a lot of top talent if you're just working from your house, for example. When you're at a certain size, you can't recruit. You can't just do everything by yourself. And you start needing, at a certain size, you also need to start seeing your customers face to face. And then there's the competition for talent. And the solution there and make sure you have your own in-house capability to train whatever skills you're offering. Now, another area is to provide, if you're going to build a product, realize that artificial intelligence is actually free now. There's a lot of open source libraries that offer artificial intelligence for free. So you can build in artificial intelligence to your products. Next, please. Examples, product recommendations, parang people who bought these products also bought this, yung mga ganon. There's already libraries that provide those recommender engines. Or detecting fraud, or facial recognition for surveillance or something. Sige, next please. Another opportunity, a lot of people, they spend a lot of money on servers or hosting. If you build it on certain platforms as a service, it becomes initially free, and then later on very, very cheap as your usage scales up. It's very cheap to scale up. If you try to build things on your own, say you get a server and then you try to set up your own platform, or you get hosting. So you need your server, you need your operating system, you need your database, your framework, your application container, your components. That's the only time you build your application. You need to set up a firewall. You need to set up redundancy. Then you need to put yung load balancing. And then you need yung content distribution. And then syempre yung power backups. And then you need performance management and monitoring, the monitoring there. And then trying to deploy your system there between your development, your testing, and your actual production is actually a nightmare on its own. And then the solution here is platform as a service. If you're gonna build a system, consider using platform as a service. Don't try to roll things from scratch, otherwise it's going to be very expensive. My recommendation, so with platform as a service, all of these things are in the background, and then you just really have to deploy your application. So my recommendation for, I think what's the best platform as a service to date is Google App Engine. So you check that out. Initially it's free. And then when you start to have some heavy usage, that's the only time they charge you, but it's very little. We recently built a system that's for DepEd, for the registration of 600,000 teachers for their email addresses, verification. And then the last bill we got from Google App Engine was just $6. So it's really very cheap for usage, and it's very cost effective, and it's also the best. You're running your system on the best infrastructure in the world, like Google. The next opportunity, which is one of my favorite topics, is the Internet of Things. Right now, the number of non-human subscribers to human subscribers to telco networks has exceeded the number of human subscribers. There's several times more devices on networks than human beings. December last year, scientists were able to create a working transistor, which is one of the basic components of a computer chip, from just one atom. And then January this year, IBM announced that they were able to create computer memory from only 12 atoms. Okay. And then June of this year, some researchers from Rice University were able to create a spray-on battery of only 0.5 millimeters. This is where we usher in the Internet of Things. So basically, as we've seen throughout the years, computers have been miniaturizing, getting smaller and smaller, getting cheaper and cheaper. And they're being deployed on everything. Now they're on your cars, they're on your appliances, and they're actually being used in farms, in fisheries, in smart buildings, smart cities, in water pipe networks, in electrical networks. These devices are getting smaller, cheaper. They're all on the internet. They're self-configuring. They self-discover each other. They announce themselves on the network. And they're embedded in everything. In fact, they're saying that eventually even human beings are going to have embedded computer chips. Maybe, for example, you have a chip in your heart that will alert your doctor if you're having a heart attack before you even know it. So the applications are limitless. I had this one guy, he was building for his thesis here in Salle, computer engineering, a farm management system where he has sensors all over a farm. And those sensors, they'll talk to each other. They'll say, okay, I don't have enough water here or something. Para ma-control automatically yung water, yung irrigation and things like that. And then, you don't need to set up an access point. These sensors will talk to each other. So when they have messages, the messages will hop along the sensors until they get to the server. So this is the Internet of Things. Everything will be programmable and accessible on the internet. And then new industries are going to be created. New blue ocean opportunities will abound. So this is going to be as much of a huge leap in the internet economy as perhaps the creation of the internet itself. And then there's so many applications right now. China's using it to manage its roadways. The US, a lot of cities are using it to manage yung water nila, so that kung may leak sa isang pipe, there's an SMS that gets sent na, oh, may leak dito, there's a drop in pressure. Some important IoT technologies are Duino, which allows you to make cheap prototypes of your devices. COSM, which is an online database which allows you to connect devices and pull in data from these disparate devices. Zigbee, which is a wireless sensor network, similar to what I said in the farms, where you can just distribute the devices and they'll start talking to each other. You don't need to set up an access point, an internet access point. And Linux is very important because it's a free operating system that's very configurable. Okay. Some challenges in technopreneurship, especially for business majors. In the Philippines, payment gateways is a challenge. It's very, very hard to get a payment gateway here in the Philippines if you want to do online payments. Because we're considered, a haven for money laundering by the world. So the workaround here, what some companies do, and something that we also did is we set up a corporation in Hong Kong, which might be cheaper than setting up a corporation here in the Philippines. And then walang problema sa Hong Kong. You can set up a payment gateway. You can connect your PayPal to your Hong Kong bank account. Yeah, come to think of it, my incorporation charges in Hong Kong are cheaper than my incorporation charges here in the Philippines. And then, I didn't even book a hotel. I just flew there. I talked, I signed some paperwork, and then I flew back at night. I flew in the morning. I flew back at night, and I had a company in Hong Kong. And then, we can accept credit card payments now. Anong problema? Since you guys are business majors, it's very hard to get programming talent. Kami na nasa IT na, ang hirap ng labanan for programming talent. Puro sila mga rock stars. So, as early as now, as students, if you want to be a technopreneur, start making friends with people in engineering, okay? So join orgs where you can meet people in engineering. Maybe you can start making projects together as early as now. May mga hackathons. There's a lot of startup weekend stuff. Startup Weekend, Idea Space has its own boot camps where you can meet engineering majors. For programming languages and frameworks, the most popular technologies aren't necessarily the best. PHP is very popular and it's good for a lot of content, but not so much for complex logic or Java is good. I'm a Java programmer myself, but it's difficult to program in Java. It's slow. It's slow to build anything. It's fast. It runs fast, but it's takes a lot of time to build stuff. Ruby on Rails still is very popular, but it still lacks maturity. I really wouldn't recommend you building anything that you intend to scale. Recommendations are Grails and Python and Django. So these are very mature technologies. At the same time, it's very, very fast to develop applications on these. And you can deploy these on Google App Engine. And in the Philippines, Capital, buti na lang andito si Earl, Capital is still a challenge, which is it's a lot better today because just a few years ago, there was no venture capital. Now there's venture capital, but it's still very difficult. So you should expect to bootstrap for the most part, you should still expect to bootstrap your startup. I'll just talk a little bit about my company, Orange and Bronze Software Labs. Its vision is to create a Filipino technology company that's admired by the world. Yeah, and it's also contribute to the Filipino technology community. So we do a lot of training for university professors. We conduct a lot of talks in IT, in activities around the Philippines. We do a lot of systems design and development for a lot of companies in the Philippines and around the world. We do a lot of training and coaching. We try to share our best practices to other companies here, like IBM, Samsung, HP. Other activities, we do have a little bit of startup incubation for our own employees that have their own startup ideas, or some friends of ours. We sponsor community events. We do a lot of linkages with the academe in order to support make sure that, try to help them provide relevant content, what they're teaching, or help them with what they're teaching. We're a partner of VMware and Google. And we're the first Philippine company to use Agile software development. First Spring Source partner in Southeast Asia. Spring Source is now a division of VMware. We won an award last year for the human assets, for our work in our human assets. We provide a lot of training for our developers. And we also have our technopreneurship programs. It's a good way for business majors to meet engineering people, very good engineering people, and to learn about the opportunities and some of the best practices in software development. All right. If you want to follow us, if you want to apply, just send your resume to careers at Orange and Bronze. We do have some openings right now for business analysts and quality assurance. You can follow us on Facebook, you can follow us on Twitter, and we also have an online magazine. You can check this out. All right. Sige. And that's it. That's my talk.
Thank you very much, Mr. Calen Legaspi.